All right, so in this explainer, we're diving into a problem that, let's be honest, has probably stolen a weekend or two from every data pro out there, the dreaded Friday night import. This is part 3 of our deep dive into Oracle 26 AI, and today we're going to see how it puts an end to that weekend stealing ritual for good.
I mean, come on. Have ever had to miss a weekend for work? You know the feeling, right? You've put in the full week, you are so ready to just log off, but there's that one massive job just sitting there, blocking you from freedom. Yep, we've all been there. Okay, so let's set the scene. Picture this. It's 5 p.m. on a Friday, you're out of there. You've got plans. Maybe it's just collapsing on the couch. Or, in the story we're telling today, it's about getting to your grandson's big soccer game on Saturday morning.
But nope, you can't leave. Why? Because the marketing team just dropped a monster of a CSV file onto some server. And guess what? It's your job to get that thing loaded into the data warehouse. Why? So the CEO can have their shiny new dashboard first thing Monday morning. No pressure.
And look, we're not talking about some little Excel spreadsheet here. We are talking about 500 million rows of data. Let that sink in. 500 million records that have to be moved from point A to point B before you can even think about starting your weekend. So what do? You kick off the script, and you wait. You watch that progress bar just crawl along. 10%, 20%. The hours just melt away. You've missed dinner. The office is totally empty, dark, and quiet. It's just you and the humming server.
And then bam, 2 in the morning, you get that one message you never want to see. Error, table space full. Just soul-crushing. It all failed. For like 30 years, this has been the reality of ETL. Extract, transform, and load. It's this fragile, painful process of just copying data. But with Oracle 20 CI, that whole era, it's over. Because we don't have to move the data anymore. We can just query it right where it is.
So you gotta ask, how did we get stuck in this ridiculous loop in the first place? Why were we spending millions of dollars on these huge storage systems just to copy data from one place to another? Let's break down the traps of the old way. It really boils down to 3 big problems, these historical traps. First, the early tools we had, things like external tables, they were just slow and they'd break if you looked at them funny. Second, the storage you needed for good performance, it was crazy expensive. So we couldn't just throw everything in the database. And third, because this whole loading process took forever, the data was already stale by the time anyone actually got to use it.
Yeah, that first attempt to fix this was a feature called external tables. But let's be real, they were primitive. They just read text files line by line, which made them incredibly slow. They couldn't use indexes to speed things up. And the worst part? If someone on the other end added a new column to the source file, the whole thing would just crash. No warning, just boom, game over.
So to get any kind of decent performance, you had to load everything directly into the database. Now, think about what that means. You're taking cold data, historical stuff that's hardly ever looked at, and you're putting it on your most expensive high-performance storage. The analogy here is perfect. That's like parking a rusted junk car in a heated garage. It's just a total waste of money and resources. And here's the kicker. Even if everything went perfectly, no errors, no crashes, even if the Friday night import actually succeeded, by the time it finished on Sunday, the data was already 48 hours old. The business was always making decisions by looking in the rearview mirror.
Not great.
Okay, so how do we finally break out of this insane cycle? Well, the solution in Oracle 26 AI is native support for a technology called Apache Iceberg. And trust me, it completely changes the game.
Now, if you haven't heard of Apache Iceberg, no worries. The simplest way to think about it is like a super intelligent container for your data. It's a way smarter alternative to those old-school CSV files. It's an open table format, and it's built specifically for handling gigantic analytic data sets on cheap storage. So what's the secret sauce? What makes Iceberg so smart? Well, for starters, the data itself lives in cheap cloud object storage. Think Amazon S3, Azure, or Oracle's OCI. But here's the cool part. Unlike a dumb text file, an Iceberg table basically has its own instruction manual built right in. It knows its own structure, it knows how the data is organized, and it even keeps a full history of all its own changes. It's self-aware data. And all that intelligence enables this new architecture that we call the lakehouse. It's a really cool concept. The data stays out in the lake. That's the huge, cheap object storage.
But all the smarts, all the querying and the management, that happens in the house, which is the powerful Oracle database engine. You really get the best of both worlds, cheap storage and lightning-fast queries.
Okay, that's the theory. But what does this actually look like in practice? Let's get our hands dirty, look at some code, and see just how ridiculously simple this new approach is. The whole idea here is simple. Query it, don't copy it.
So that whole weekend-destroying nightmare we talked about, it gets replaced with this simple two-step process. Seriously, that's it. Step 1, you create a link to the external Iceberg table. Step 2, you just query it, like any other normal table in your database. No more complex scripts, no more waiting for hours.
Okay, here's step 1. This is the actual command to link the table. You can see we give it a name, we pass on our cloud credentials, and we point it to the Iceberg metadata file. But the real magic, the whole key, is right there on that last line. The format parameter is set to Iceberg. That's the magic switch. That one little word tells Oracle exactly how to read this super smart data format.
And then, step 2. Check this out. It's just a totally standard SQL query. We're joining our local customers table directly with that sales history Iceberg table we just defined. For the developer, for the end user, this looks and feels exactly like a normal table. There's zero indication that one of them is sitting out in the cloud on cheap storage.
And what's happening behind the scenes when you run that join? It's pretty amazing. The Oracle Optimizer is smart enough to know what to do. It grabs the hot customer data from your fast local storage, then it goes out to the cloud and pulls only the specific cold historical data that it needs, and then it just stitches them together on the fly. Instantly.
So let's just state the bottom line here. The result? Zero copy, zero loading time. The data is queried right where it sits instantly. That whole Friday night import, it's just gone. It's not a thing anymore. So let's go back to our DBA from the beginning of the story. What does this all mean for them? It means that when the marketing team dumps a terabyte of new data on a Friday afternoon, they don't even break a sweat. They don't have to cancel their weekend plans. They just point Oracle to the new Iceberg data, define the table, which takes, a few seconds, and they go home. They get to go to that soccer game.
You see, this technology, it's not really just about making queries faster or saving money on storage. It's about giving people their time back. It's a simple, incredibly powerful alternative that just wipes out decades of tedious, painful work. So it really leaves us with just one question, and it's a personal one. What are you going to do with your weekend back? In our next explainer, we'll explore how Oracle 26AI is literally learning to talk back. Thanks for joining me.